full trigger. Yeah.
Welcome back to the channel, you guys. Welcome back. Got the Deltaforce Vortex 24 build on the block. This is part 1 to my twin motor hydroplane build series. I have a few videos out with this boat in it, like the hatch locks and an introduction to RC boat building, like everything you freaking need to build an RC boat. That was my previous video, so check that out. But this is part 1. We're going to be making the motor mount in this video. So motor and servo mount. It's going to be kind of the centerpiece in my boat. We're going to use some carbon fiber to mock it up and just get it cut out. Stick around. Big B with Ironclad RC. So for this build, we're going to be running two of these Leopard Hobby X2 motors. It's a 2850 size, 3330 kV, 3030. So that kV will allow me to run 3 and 4S. Okay, I went with these motors because they're pretty light, they're compact, and really the water jacket is what I was after with those 90-degree elbows so we can fit them in the boat. Some 80 amp water cooled, just a generic ESC. We may need to do some waterproofing on these just to be on the safe side. They're not like a name brand, so that's for this boat. And for servo, we're running the 25 kilogram DS servo. All right, should be perfect for this thing. So let's make a motor mount. This is actually a very important part of my build. You know, I need to make sure that the angle my motors are sitting on this frame right here, it's got to be perfect so that my motors don't run into the top of my hatch. You know what I'm saying? So this is going to be very tedious. There's going to be a lot of back and forth work for me. But what I'm going to do is just use some like a glue stick. Pretty simple here. Gonna stick this template that I made, and I've went over this template, you know, refined my shape, the size of it, the length my servo is from the motors. It's kind of been refined, and I'm just going to use that glue stick to stick this cardboard down on my carbon fiber. Okay, so it's actually 2 days later, and I've got my motor servo mount made. Okay, it actually looks really, really good. It took me a couple days to get it right. I had to really pay attention to the motor angle. Okay, this boat and the hatch, it's not designed for twin. Okay, so the motors basically sit here and here on the hatch. A single motor, you could get the angle and it would sit perfect in the center bubble. But this twin, it's tough. All right, I needed to get the angle right to fit under the hatch, I also needed to get the angle right so the stuffing tubes meet up to the strut. Okay, so I had to modify my original motor mount, okay, to get the angle right. So I'm gonna walk you guys through what I've had to do to the mount here, but I just wanted to show you guys kind of what I'm thinking. We're gonna run like a single pack or twin packs, okay, and I really wanted to run my motors kind of back if I can, so I have plenty of room up here for battery choice. Okay, when I first made this motor mount, I had just planned on it being two pieces, right? A slit and then another slit, slides together, boom, 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 done, right? So when I first made it, I cut this slit too much, and I had a lot of play, okay? And the first slit, the angle of my motors it was like too low, right? So I'm sitting here, I'm like, golly, I gotta cut a whole new mount out, a whole new rail. So I'm sitting here thinking, how can I fix it? How can I fix it? And I was like, oh yeah, okay, so I can actually take my file this part, and then go down here, file this part, change the angle, right? And what I'll do is make this wider so I can change the angle, and I'll just cut a third piece. Okay, so I cut this little guy right here out. It basically goes right there, and it actually worked out for the best. I'm not going to hammer this all the way in because it's like super tight, so tight that I can't get it undone. Okay, it took me forever to get it undone when I was making this. So now it's like, once it's in there, it's like no play. It's perfect, and the angle is perfect. Made sure all this was sitting flat, and basically all I need to do now is drill some holes in here for epoxy, you know, to hold this in, you know. So I got the motor angle right, and I got it nice and tight. We're going. The servo mount. Now this is actually a funny story. So I took the motors off so I could show you guys what I did with the servo here. So I CA glued these nut plates on, right? And I put everything together, I put the motors on, and I went to go put my servo in. I was planning on running my servo like this, and I was like, oh my god, I'm a freaking moron. I glued my freaking nut plate on the wrong freaking side, right? Of course I used CA. It glues instantaneously, and I couldn't take them off and switch it. You know, if I would have epoxied it on, I probably would have caught it and I could have switched sides, right? No, I used CA, and they're on there. Okay, so I'm sitting here, I'm like, well, maybe I can just, you know, run my screw in this way, and it'll hold, right? It'll look silly, it'll bring it out farther from center, it'll work. Then I got to thinking, okay, I took my razor knife, and it had like this little lip right here, like, you know, for support. I ended up cutting this off both sides. Okay, so now I'm actually able to run my servo on the other side, right? Screw my servo into the nut plate like it's supposed to be, and voila, it actually worked out for the best. It brought my servo arm and linkage closer to center. If I would have run it on this side, it would have been way off center, and I run it on this side, it's closer to center. I'm running a center mounted rudder, right? And the rudder arm, okay, it's basically gonna meet up to my rudder arm like perfect. It worked out for the best. So I decided to keep it. Now it does kind of look silly, you know, with the screws running through there like that, but it actually works out for the best mechanically, you know. So let's weigh this servo mount compared to a ready-made stock servo mount and 2 motor mounts. All right, let's get a weight. You guys know I like to try to keep my boats light, right? So I got my scale here, and we're going to weigh this twin motor servo mount. It's 23.5, so let's say 24 grams. So I would need 2 of these. That's let's just say 40 grams for one. That's 80 grams for 2 motor mounts. A servo mount, 80, 20 grams is 24 minus the bag. Let's just say 20, so 80, 90, 100 grams. 2 motor mounts and a servo mount. 100 grams versus 24. So it's a quarter the weight. Very lightweight. That's freaking dope, boy. Yes, sir, buddy. Alright, so as you guys seen, I drilled out my epoxy dam holes. It don't have to be perfect. They don't have to be spaced a certain distance or anything. As long as you have them. That's what's going to hold your mount in. Okay, so I got mine drilled out. It's ready to go. Alright, I went ahead and I drove that centerpiece in. I cannot get this thing apart. I just tried. I can't get it apart. So I don't think I'm going to glue this together. I think epoxy, it should hold it together. It's stout now. I mean, it's not going nowhere. So I was going through, I was checking everything before I mounted in the boat permanently, and I noticed that my motor shafts are a little close to the edge of this hole. So I think I'm going to go ahead and get my stepped bit and just drill this out one size larger. You know, try to push it down a little bit as I'm drilling it, so I don't get any rubbing right here. That's important. I think my servo mount, that part of the mount is ready to go. Everything fits in there perfect, you know. So that should be good. So I got the motors and the servo mounted up, basic, kind of permanently, like it would be like mounted in the boat. Got that hole drilled out for my motor shafts. That looks good. Servos in. Okay. So we're about to mess around with weight distribution because I want to get this thing in the boat. I've got center marked on my hull here. Okay, and let's go ahead and mess around with weight distribution. So I have my turn fin here. Okay, it's got like a nice swept back angle. It's actually a nice looking turn fin. So it's basically, the trailing edge is like right, this line right here is like center. It's got that swept back angle. It's like center of the trailing edge. Okay, and then this forward one is like center of the turn fin. You guys see that? So center of the turn fin, back of the trailing edge. Okay, so I was really trying to run my motors, like I said a while ago, back, and I really don't think I'm going to be able to. So with my batteries forward, basically as far as I can get them without tearing up the boat, my center of gravity's right on the trailing edge of my turn fin, which will probably work out. So if I move my motors forward, I can almost get my center of gravity to the center of my fin. Okay, you guys see what I'm doing here? If I go farther forward with the motor, I can get my center of gravity about center of the turn fin. really didn't want to go this far forward, because if I go that far forward, I'm not going to have any back adjustability. So if my center of gravity wasn't right and it needed to come back, I wouldn't be able to. You see what I'm saying? So I kind of want to run my motors about right here. It's not all the way back, it's not all the way forward. I'll have a little bit of adjustability with my battery. I can get it about a 1/4 inch behind the trailing edge of the turn fin. I go forward, like we're going to build this boat for ovals first, ovals and straights first, you know, and we're going to run a flat strut position. All right, once we change the bottom, we'll run the angled strut position. So I really don't want to put my motors too far forward, because once I turn it into a drag boat, I need to get my center of gravity back, you know. So I'm taking all that into account. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so we went over center of gravity. You guys seen how I made my motor servo mount. Still thinking about how I'm going to work all this out. Next video, we'll probably epoxy this in and finalize the transom. I'm running these cheaper 4mm struts. I have a pair of counter rotating 4mm flex cables on the way. That's kind of the only thing I'm really waiting on, is my flex cables. And one of my couplers, the bore wasn't right on one of these two couplers from Offshore Electrics. It was a defect. It won't go on my motor shaft, so I gotta wait for another coupler. But I'm actually I'm actually thinking about shortening this bracket for my rudder. I want to actually run my rudder about right here instead of where it's at. When the rudder kicks up after I hit something, I think it'll actually hit my props in its current location. You actually just, on this cheap rudder, you just grind this top corner off right here and put a breakaway and it'll kick up, you know. So I'm actually kind of up in the air about where I want to run the blade, and I'm actually contemplating using a different set of brackets. I might run these struts closer to the transom. That's why I hadn't drilled it yet. I got everything marked out. My turn fin and everything's already marked. My rudder, I just gotta, you know, be confident in my setup back here. Running them extended like this, it's actually going to work better for my center of gravity, where, like, with it being a little farther back. So I think I'm up in the air. Running them extended or running them up close to the transom like I did my original drag boat. So yeah, I just got these little 4mm stub shaft. This is a square end stub shaft. I don't use square end. I just kind of got it mocked up so I could see where the rudder fell in relation to the props. Speaking of props, check these bad boys out. These are those 1717 ABCs. Just finished up balancing them. Got them actually the same weight, which I don't even know why they... For twins, why does it even matter if they're the same weight? It don't really even make no sense. Yeah, the thickness of the blade, you know, I get it, but I don't see how it makes a huge difference. So look at the trailing edge on this one. You see the trailing edge right here? So pretty, right? It's a mold mark. Man, that sucks too, man. It's a deep one. That sucks. Ooh, that's a pretty prop, boy. That is a pretty prop. Yep, so we'll be running that on the animal. Maybe we'll throw it on here. Stupid fast. All right. So I'm gonna quit playing around. I've kept you guys long enough. Hope you guys liked the video. Maybe you learned something. Maybe you didn't. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Big B with Ironclad RC. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe.